Hello, this is Culture Bites coming to you from the national news in Abu Dhabi and further away today. I'm Enas Refaei.
And I'm Farah Andrews.
So we've got loads on the agenda today for you. Halloween is coming next week, my favourite time of year. We are talking Britney Spears.
We're going to be speaking to the organisers of Palestinian Cinema Days in Abu Dhabi and taking a look at the events that have been cancelled and what's still on and how you can stay connected with arts and culture with our man about town.
So this is my first Halloween in Abu Dhabi. It's very exciting. All the houses in my neighbourhood actually have already started putting up their decorations. I know it's kind of like a bit of a controversial thing. Some people don't celebrate it, some people do. I just see it as a bit of fun.
That's what I think as well. It's just something nice to enjoy, like a family event, right? It's nothing too deep.
It's really not that deep. It's just about getting dressed up. Eating lots and lots of candy. Actually, I don't know. Did you ever do like the kind of like traditional British games? Because we used to do like really random things like apple bobbing.
I was going to say, apple bobbing. We did apple bobbing. I feel like my mum used to do something with like rolling apple and sweeties down a hill, but we never did that. But my mum spoke about that.
We used to do this game called Cut the Flower, where you would have a big tower of flour with like a cherry or a grape on top. And then each person would kind of cut the flour, so cut parts of the flour away. And if the cherry or grape dropped from the top of the tower, your face got smashed into the flour. It's my favourite game.
Let's play it. Let's play it when I get back.
So we're not just going to be talking about the fun of Halloween and all the different games. We're also talking about scary movies.
Yeah, so that is obviously a big way of celebrating Halloween. I should say I'm currently, very unexpectedly, this is why we're recording the way we are today, I'm in the US. So out of like a very last minute trip to the US for family things, I have ended up in, Northeast America in like the height of autumn, fall. So we've been going on quite long car journeys and it has been so beautiful. The like autumn leaves, everything is like red and orange. It's so pretty.
That's my favourite time of year. It's so nice.
Exactly. And we get that to a degree in England. We do not get that at all in the UAE. But I think like driving around and seeing that has kind of made me understand why it's such a popular season in this country and why it's become such a thing.
I mean, I have got an aversion to the cold weather. So even though I do love autumnal colours, I am very happy not to be in the cold.
Oh, I'm basically in thermals and my partner's family are like in shorts and t-shirt. I'm making a fool of myself. But it is nice being here and kind of seeing all that. Like we were driving along and I asked if I was going to see a pumpkin patch, and genuinely about 100 meters down the road there was a pumpkin patch. So they're everywhere. It's a real thing.
Oh my goodness, that's like living in a movie. I'm not going to do an American accent. Talking of movies, so scary movies. There's loads coming out of the region, and there's more that I want to see that have come out of the region that I've kind of been banking for this season. So,
do you like scary
movies? Is a strong word. I don't think I like them. I think I tolerate them. I kind of like, I think it's undeniable that scary films really do pick at things in society that otherwise don't get picked at. So, for instance, like Get Out, I think it really looked at like race in America. And I think there's a lot of issues can sometimes come out in scary movies, which society as a whole is trying to deal with in some way. So that's why I'm always intrigued by them.
Get Out is kind of my limit. I watched that because there was so much conversation about the kind of social commentary about that film, and I am a big fan of Daniel Kaluuya. So I've seen that, but that's where I stop. I cannot watch anything scary. I do not do gore. I do not do atmospheric. I do not like anything like a bit frightening at all. However, I do like true crime, which kind of is
True crime is
contradictory, I
really,
know.
that's actually real.
Yeah, that's even worse. But I like watch and read a lot of true crime, but just fake crime. No, it's not for me.
I love the contradiction there. Like I do find,
Yeah.
yeah, true crime. I did get into a few, as everybody did over lockdown, like those true crime podcasts, and I was terrified. I had to like lock my door 3 times every night. But an actual horror film won't scare me in the same way. But I do relate everything in my life to a horror film. So if there's a window creaks, I'm like, oh my God, I've got a window. Is it creaking? Like everything that like moves or has some sort of like sound, it becomes really personal for me. Um,
This could happen. This could happen. No, this is why I can't watch them. I don't.
well, I'm gonna watch
There's a lot
some.
of...
I am
Okay,
gonna
tell
watch
me what you're
some.
going to watch.
So there's one. It was actually produced by in Abu Dhabi, and it's a film from the
Mhm.
2013. So it's a bit old now, but it's called Jinn, and it's about a newlywed Emirati couple, traumatized by the loss of their child, and they return home only to suspect it's haunted. Now it's one of those. It kind of like touches on folklore and kind of religious beliefs in the region, which is about jinn spirits. You know about that?
Yeah, so I remember this film coming out. This is one of, it's obviously not the first big Emirati film, there have been many before, but it is a film that kind of really sparked international conversation as well. When it first came out, it was huge. And then the kind of conversation around the jinn and explaining the jinn was really interesting, I thought, kind of around that film.
Yeah, I mean,
But I have not watched it, obviously,
because you're too
because
scared.
I'm
Well, I'm going to watch it. I'm saving it for Halloween this year, but it's also done by a really famous director.
Oh, amazing. What's the director's name? I didn't know. I can't remember.
So Tobe Hooper is the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He is huge in the kind of like horror world, but he came to Abu Dhabi obviously, and he did this film alongside the film industry in this country. And I think it's just kind of it should be celebrated a bit more. We're coming to the season, and I really was like looking and hunting for something that felt authentic to where I am now, because like you're saying, America, pumpkin patches. That's not going to scare me right now. Like I need something with a bit more like glossy marble. So
I mean,
I'm going to
that,
be watching
yeah.
that this.
There's also been, so this is not a regional release, but there's a new horror TV show that's come out on Netflix called Fall of the House of Usher. Have you been reading about this?
I've seen it on my Netflix, but I haven't watched it.
So I'm not joking. Even the trailer had me like, this is not for me. But it's based on a story by Edgar Allan Poe. So this is good, good scary stock here. There is like the original MVP of the horror genre, and so this it's been developed into a Netflix series, and I have it on good authority from people I've been talking to here who are very big Halloween fans. That is a show to watch if you're a fan of the genre.
Yeah,
But
I
not for me.
can't wait. I think especially like yeah, there's so much. There's so much around Halloween that I really enjoy. I say horror films, I have to wait until my kids are definitely asleep to watch any though, because I wouldn't want them to see anything really traumatic. But also there's lots coming out in the cinemas. So if you
Yeah.
are like a big fan of horror, we have in the cinemas, we have Saw is back. I mean, I think this must be number 5. And we've also got The Exorcist as well. So huge franchises of coming back for this season too.
Yeah, that's nice. I was reading a study the other day that there are health benefits in being afraid. So
Mm.
kind of like the way that you're getting your heart rate up and you're kind of pushing your adrenaline using kind of film and horror, there are health benefits to it, which I think
Wait, is
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 very...
it is it as beneficial as me going to my spin class? Should I cancel spin and just watch horror?
Yeah. Back off spin and just do 3 hours of horror a week, and then you're going to be the fittest you've ever been.
I don't think I need to do that, but it would be quite funny to see if it has an effect.
I would be a shell of myself. I would like never leave the house ever again if I was just watching non-stop horror.
I
Something
have a
else I
door.
wanted to
I have a
mention.
window. Oh.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't go outside. Um, one of my team members, Faisal, has done a very good roundup um of video games to play if you're into Halloween and into being scared. He's rounded up 5 to play in the run up to Halloween. And there's a really good variety. And what I really love that he's done is that with each game, he's given them like a score of like a gore score, an atmosphere score, and jump scares so that people really know what they're getting with each of these games, which I think
That's a
if
great
you're
idea.
yeah, if you're someone that really likes gore, there are certain games to go to. But if you're someone who just kind of wants like the atmospheric scariness, there are better games. So some of the games he's included are a game called Dead Space and a game called Silent Hill 2. They both sound pretty gory and pretty atmospheric, but low on the jump scares. So that's kind of something else to do if you want to like celebrate Halloween but in a different way that doesn't involve dressing up and eating a lot of Reese's Pieces.
I remember the first time I played one of those like zombie games on the PlayStation when I was a kid, and the controller like had a vibrator, like shook when something jumped out at me, and it genuinely terrified me because I didn't know that that was going to happen.
No. There's a cinema in Dubai that does that. It's like a 4D cinema experience. And I think I went and watched maybe Deadpool in it. And that's not a scary film at all. But that still was like when there was a bit of a jump and it would like vibrate your chair and blow out like cold wind and even some mist at some stages when it was like raining. So it was like that made it was like that's the only film I've ever gone and watched in that cinema, but it was kind of made it like a bit of a theme park experience as well, which I
Yeah.
kind of loved.
I'm sure there's more of that here. Okay, so I think we're going to move on to our second thing on our running order today, which is I feel like this is like a moment. We're experiencing a moment. I'm so excited by this. I should be reading much, I do read more interesting books, or like, should I say more intellectual books? But this one I'm really excited about because this is Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me, is being released.
It's out. It's out. It came out on Tuesday, I think. Yes,
So all I've read is the
it's
reviews
out.
so far, but I've got it already on Audible.
I've got it on my Kindle. I've started it, but I haven't. I'm not far enough in to be able to give a review. I am far enough in to tell you that I am gripped. Brittany has got me.
So this book,
And I think,
oh, sorry.
yeah. No, I was just going to say, you've done yourself a disservice. This is a very interesting book. It may not be the most highbrow read of our year, but there is definitely a lot of interesting things that we're going to like get out of this book.
I think
One
this
of the
is it. I
prob-
think like on a more kind of like going on a more anthropological level of like looking back at the early 2000s. Like we're obviously reassessing that time now. We've moved forward in so many ways, and we are reassessing that time. We're reassessing like pop culture in the early noughties and like what that actually meant. And I think this book is such a signifier of that time and like what she went through, but because it was all so curated pop
yeah.
culture. I've got a confession. I've actually met Britney.
Wow. When?
It was a long time ago. I had to take her. So I was a very young entertainment reporter, and I had to take her down the lift and then lead her out of the building after an interview. And I remember standing in the lift with her, and we left the building together. And I have never in my entire life been so blinded by paparazzi, obviously because I'm not famous. And for a moment, I realized why everybody wore sunglasses when they were leaving buildings at that time, because the amount of paparazzi that were following her was insane. And I think that, I had this sudden moment of realize, like, I was just like, God, man, you have to go through this all the time. It's so sad.
24/7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, roughly what year was this? Was this like height of her fame?
So it must have been 2013.
Okay, so I mean, she's basically been famous since 1999. So
Yeah.
she has like it's never eased up for her the level of like interest in her life. Wow. Okay. That is really interesting. So what I've been like the book, there is a good thing and a bad thing. Like, when these books come out, the biggest revelations get shared, right? And there is the kind of course that's going to happen. Like, we have people that read it ahead for reviews, and we have people that speed read on the day things come out to be able to kind of share the biggest bombshells. I don't want to do too many of the biggest revelations, because I think if people are going to read it, they want to read it, right? And not kind of have it from us. But like the kind of things she, by the sounds of it, gets pretty deep. She goes into a lot of what happened. She talks about the conservatorship a lot. She talks about her family a lot. Justin Timberlake a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the conservatorship, it only ended 2 years ago. Is it 2 years ago now? So this is really coming out at a time when I suppose Britney herself is rediscovering herself without those kind of restrictions that for years and years and years we all thought was kind of like almost like an urban legend. We didn't really believe that that was the case. And then it all came to light that it was the case, that she was actually being kind of controlled by her family and the music industry and all these other things.
Yeah, exactly. Like the level of control in her life has been like very, like, from us on the outside, the fact that she was kind of in this kind of gilded cage, like she has like never wanted for anything in terms, like she's had access to so much money and everything in that since her career started. However, the way she has just kind of been locked away in this world where she's kind of not been out and about. It's it's a lot. But
yeah, I think there's a lot to go
movement,
through. Free Britney. Free Britney.
yeah, free Britney. She says that her conservatorship turned her into a child robot. So she was under her father's conservatorship for 13 years, and she said, "I became a robot, not just a robot, a sort of child robot. I've been so infantilized I was losing pieces of what made me myself. 13 years went by with me feeling like a shadow of myself. I think back now on my father and his associates having control of my body and my money for that long, and it makes me sick. I did not deserve what my family did to me." I think that's so sad.
Wow. So did she ever
And it's
actually
amazing
realize who she was away from all of this? I wonder.
yeah, exactly. And she's like, it's amazing that she is now getting the chance to put everything into her own voice, which is so important.
Yeah, it is. Although I do worry about her because I think it's like, her Instagram posts sometimes they are quite worrying. I think there's a lot going on there, but I'm hoping that this memoir definitely sheds like a bit of light on the backstory.
Yeah.
The origin
I
story.
kind of the origin story and kind of how she got to where she is. Like, I last year and the year before I read a lot about Britney and listened to quite a few podcasts about her and the way she was, the way celebrity. We've both worked in entertainment news and have a lot of interest in entertainment news, and the kind of different treatment of celebrities now to the way it was in like the late 90s and early 2000s. While I don't think it has eased up any, like, I know we all joke that I love Taylor Swift, but like the aggressive hounding and the fact that every single tiny facet of her life is like overanalyzed in the most extreme of ways, like that hasn't changed from when Britney was younger. In fact, it's probably a little bit worse in like the advent of camera phones, the fact that every single thing that a celebrity can do and share can be just plastered on the internet within 3 seconds of it happening. But hopefully one thing that's good is like our culturally our understanding of mental health issues and the kind of treatment of people who are experiencing mental health problems, and the fact that it's no longer something that's kind of relished, which it at points of like the late 90s and early 2000s it definitely was.
100%.
And that is,
I think in some ways a lot of celebrities are now regaining control of the narrative by having social media as well. So it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword. I think people having their own phones and being able to like publicize themselves and having like an Instagram page which they can have some sort of say over is definitely changing the game for celebrities. But let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really exciting. I'm excited to read it. And so moving on now, we're going to be speaking to Faisal El Hassan, who is the director of 421.online, which is bringing Palestinian cinema here to the UAE and Abu Dhabi. Hi, Faisal.
Hello, Enas and Farah. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for joining us. So the Palestinian cinema runs from the 26th of October to the 29th. Can you just give us a brief overview of what's in store?
We partnered with our friends at Cinema Aqil and Real Palestine to showcase Palestinian films and shed light on narratives of Palestinian resilience and everyday life through different lenses from Palestinian filmmakers worldwide. We will be featuring the films Alam, 200 Meters, Foragers, and Between Heaven and Earth. All proceeds from the film program will go to the Emirates Red Crescent campaign Tarahum for Gaza. We also accept in-kind donations that can be dropped off at our spaces throughout the film days from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Those interested in joining us can register on our website and complete a donation through the Emirates Red Crescent payment link. And as you mentioned, the program runs from the 26th to the 29th of October in our outdoor plaza. The screenings will start at 7 p.m. every evening, and there will be subtitles both in English and Arabic where applicable.
That's incredible. I think it's, this has come at such a poignant time, but this is actually an annual event.
We, as 421, we run a film program on yearly basis throughout the year at different times that showcases and platforms Arab film makers and really looks at different range of topics and themes and voices from the region addressing various issues, and we are committed to maintaining this work in the future.
How many films are being featured at Palestinian Cinema Days?
We have 4 films, one screened each night. The films presented are in the narrative and documentary genres. All are feature-length films that have won awards and have been screened at leading international film festivals. We also wanted to make sure that every film we present was made by a Palestinian filmmaker and was not just filmed and produced in Palestine. In Alam, for example, director Farah tells of a coming-of-age story that features 2 Palestinian teenagers who fall in love amid living under occupation. In 200 Meters, Amin Naife and Mayoude, the directors, present a moving story of a husband and wife who are leading their lives 200 meters apart, divided by the separation wall. The film takes us on a tough journey as they navigate trying to keep their family together while living on 2 sides of the wall. Foragers by Jumana Manna is an experimental documentary film that sheds light on the impact of Israeli nature protection laws that prevent Palestinians from foraging native plants. The film presents a nuanced perspective of the relationships around Palestinian culture, identity, and agriculture. And finally, Between Heaven and Earth by Najwa Najjar presents a really interesting perspective of everyday life under occupation. In the film, we are introduced to a young couple that simply want to get a divorce, but face various difficulties as they navigate checkpoints and limited access and other issues.
I think it's so interesting and it's so timely to be talking about as well about the creativity which comes out of Palestine. I mean, I think there's so much wealth in the creativity and it's so good to be raising awareness of that creativity. I know Farah and I have spoken about it before, about like Lid, which we both really enjoyed, which was a sci-fi documentary which came from Palestinian Israeli cinema. So tell me a little bit how important this event is for raising that awareness.
Look, film and the arts in general are incredibly powerful tools that invite us to collectively reflect on and participate in dialogue on important issues. They also give us the space to be truly meditative, giving us a chance to connect with human experience, emotion, and struggle. I think this is especially critical when we are considering the experiences of disenfranchised communities. The arts allow us to consider other historical contexts and environments, which help us to really see other communities and cultures, not just other, but as humans with shared universal experiences.
And can you give an overview of the Palestinian cinema? Are there any quirks or anything different which happens in Palestinian cinema which maybe doesn't come across from other Middle Eastern countries?
Look, for a long time, Palestinian cinema has focused on themes of resistance and belonging. Filmmaking has been a vehicle for Palestinians to make visible their history and struggle. Also, it highlights the experiences of Palestinians in the diaspora, which we now know are over 7 million worldwide who have been living in exile for 70 plus years. I wouldn't say there is a particular quirk, but many researchers and academics who have written about the history of Palestinian cinema agree that there is an element of the archival, I would say, an approach that is more documentary in style, that I think is very specific to Palestinian film, although, of course, this doesn't apply to every film produced. Archival documentation, like newspaper clippings, family photographs, certificates, marriage licenses, and so on, are the foundation of Palestinian memory. They are used to represent a collective identity which has been experiencing the threat of extinction since 1948. I think this was born out of the necessity to make the Palestinian struggle visible, which has been very often silenced or made hidden. What I can also say that it sets it apart from other cinematic traditions across the region is that it really reimagines the documentary genre by crossing it with magical realism. Contemporary Palestinian cinema also takes on a more surreal aesthetic, let's say. The filmmakers kind of weave together historical context with absurd, dreamlike storytelling. I think filmmakers often combine these different ways to portray the complexities of the people's experiences, both within the Palestinian territories and in the diaspora.
If I was to go just slightly off of what we have written down, and I was to ask you which of the films is a not to be missed, what would you say?
I think it's very difficult to single out one of them. I am sure if you come and join us for the 4 film screenings, you would see that each one presents a really important perspective and a story. But if I had to deep dive into one film, let's say, I am particularly interested in stories of land and agriculture. And Foragers by Jumana Manna sheds light on agriculture policies in the occupied territories. The film mixes documentary-style scenes with the director's family members and interviews with strangers, and mixes that with reenactments of real-life events to reveal the impact of these policies that were started back in the year 2000 by the Israeli government. These policies prevent Palestinians from foraging wild crops and plants like akub and zatar, which we find out during the film are central to Palestinian heritage. These plants have been foraged for generations by Palestinian families, were passed down, becoming really integral to Palestinian culture and food. The film presents a really multi-layered picture of how these policies have alienated Palestinians from their land and the negative impact on Palestinian collective well-being. It contrasts modern conservative efforts with indigenous Palestinian knowledge around food and agriculture. It's a really fascinating film, and I really invite everyone to come and see it.
So we're interested to know what urged you to launch Palestinian Cinema Days, and kind of if you could talk to us a little bit about that at the moment.
Well, Farah, it goes without saying that we're really devastated by the ongoing crisis in Gaza and the horrifying footage that we're seeing on our screens. As a cultural institution that values artistic practice as a means for social inquiry and transformation, we believe it's really crucial to amplify Palestinian voices at the moment. Art and film are important platforms for expression, representation, and education, empowering individuals and our community to foster understanding and open dialogue. Film, especially, is an intimate medium that allows us to empathize deeply with the characters that we see on our screens. It's important for us to remind the world that Palestinians are people, not just numbers in logbooks or Instagram posts. Every day over the past 2 weeks on the news, we hear statistics of how many people died, the harrowing devastation Palestinians are experiencing. We get reports on how many people are taking shelter in schools, mosques, and churches, and how many are in the morgue. But we forget that Palestinians are people. They come from diverse walks of life. With dreams, aspirations, personal experiences, and stories. They have hobbies, likes, dislikes. They fall in love. They have high school crushes. They get married and get divorced. They start families. They struggle with daily life. They lead full lives that aren't captured in these numbers and data. We also have to remember that not only are they people with complexities and full life experiences, but they also do that while living under occupation in the West Bank and a siege in Gaza. Through showcasing these films, we hope to present narratives that challenge the current pictures that we're seeing about Palestinians in the mainstream media and on social media and elsewhere.
I think that's such a powerful answer, Faisal. And I think it's something that I think all journalists at the moment, especially here at the National, we're really trying to make sure that people don't just become numbers. And I think that's something that will resonate with everybody here.
Exactly. They're humans. They're not numbers. And we just need to keep reminding ourselves and reminding the people around us that, this is the reality.
At the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that all the proceeds from the event are going to the Emirates Red Crescent Authority's campaign. What can you tell us about the efforts from the Emirates Red Crescent?
Well, the proceeds go to the Emirates Red Crescent, and I really want to highlight that the UAE leadership has always been at the forefront of humanitarian response worldwide. The UAE has a long history of providing humanitarian aid, not just to Gaza and to the West Bank, which have been going on for many years now, but to every corner of the world where communities needed assistance and humanitarian relief. I'm also really proud to be part of a community here in the UAE where nationals and residents alike have a contagious, generous spirit. The past weekend, the 421 team and I volunteered at the Emirates Red Crescent packing facility at ADNIC. And it was really amazing to see volunteers from every nationality and age group there. I believe 10,000 people volunteered just this past weekend, and 25,000 relief packages were prepared. It was an incredible effort. It's also deeply encouraging to see the arts and culture sector mobilizing so quickly in response to the devastating events in Gaza. Our colleagues at Al Circal Avenue, at Art Dubai, at Dubai Design Week have all been raising funds and collecting donations for the campaign. I really encourage everyone in Abu Dhabi who is able to join us for the Palestinian Cinema Days to make an in-kind donation for the campaign. No donation is too small. You can find all the details on our website or on the Red Crescent website.
I think that's a really important message as well, is that during these times, like, we all should be coming together. And even if you're not going to see a film, please do head down there and go and give a donation to help the efforts in Gaza. Thank you so much, Faisal, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I hope to see you in better days.
And here we are, joined in the studio, sorry, Farah, with our man about town.
Hi, hello here, and hello in America. Hi, Farah. Thank God for a good internet connection.
I know, it's like changed our lives.
Yeah.
For the better, for the better. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to do this.
Nope.
So another week, another lot of things have changed
Mhm.
so significantly, obviously due to the ongoing situation. So we're here to talk about, well, not what's going on, but maybe what's not going on so much.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of, as most people know, events in the UAE have been either cancelled or postponed. So those include the Culture Summit, which was supposed to happen this week, concerts like from Amr Diab, from Khalid, from Macklemore, Kiss, and some film festivals as well that were happening in the region, like the Al Film Festival and the Cairo Film Festival as well. So it's kind of an interesting space to be in terms of what people can do in the arts and culture space. I mean, there's still so many galleries that are open and have continuous shows, like in the Louvre or the Etihad Museum. The Calligraphy Biennale is still happening in Dubai. So, but if we pivot a little bit, there's other things that people can engage in culturally, which is something that I'm super passionate about, if anybody knows me well, which is books. There are so many interesting, important, relevant books that delve into this topic in so many diverse ways. And like, I know that, for the social media savvy generation, we're sort of used to seeing like, a 30-second clip about this particular issue or topic. But I'm of the belief that books can really take you, they're a vehicle to really immerse you in particular topics. And in the arts and culture section in the National, we write a lot about books. And there's 3 really great articles that I think delve into different books about the region. So I'm going to tell you guys about the 3 articles, and I'm going to highlight 1 or 2 books.
Excited. I'm
Exciting?
waiting.
Yeah. So the first story is, I think it's 12 books about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is on our site now. And one book I really want to highlight is a book called The Question of Palestine by Edward Said. Now, for those of you who don't know, Edward Said is a well-known American-Palestinian literary critic and political activist. He's really interesting. And the book that he's written, he wrote, goes into the conflict and really tells you not only about the context, but looks at it from the Western perspective as well. And Edward Said is really, really great at that. He wrote this other book called The Orientalist.
I mean, it's
Orientalism, sorry.
Yeah, Orientalism was is on everybody's bookshelf
Exactly.
at university.
He's so clever not clever, but he's so good at taking these really complex issues, particularly pertaining to the Middle East, and making you think about them from a Western perspective and how they exist in the West. So I think that's a really important, good book to have. And most of his books are available on Audible as well for those people who don't want to sit there and hold a book and read.
That's me. Hand up.
Yeah.
Hand up. I'm always downloading things on Audible.
I mean, we are on a podcast right now.
Non-fiction on Audible is so good. That's, I think, where it really comes through.
And we forget that how important audio, listening to stories sometimes is better than reading books. Another article that we wrote is 12 contemporary Arab novels that you should read. And they're by different Arab authors from across the region who have written about the Arab experience, whether it's in the Middle East or in diaspora. And one of those books I want to highlight is called The Mother of Strangers. It's by a Palestinian author called Suad Amri. She's an author and architect. And she wrote this. It's a very short novel, and it's based on real people, and it's a homage to her father and his hometown of Jaffa. It's kind of like a folk tale or fairy tale that's a little bit dark, and it's about a young mechanic, very talented mechanic, and his love for this peasant girl that he wants to marry, and how their life sort of shifts when Palestinian families become displaced. And she's really great at writing about this big topics in a very simple, accessible way. And I don't know about you guys, but I love accessible stories that are like easy to digest. So that's a great one for fiction.
You had me at like fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like anything that's a bit Neil Gaiman, a bit like out of this world fantasy, I'm there.
I mean, it's not fully fantasy, but it reads like that. She describes it in a kind of like a fantasy way. The other article that we have on our website is one of the favorite ones that I worked on, which is 19 graphic novels set in the Middle East. So for those people who can't sit there and just read page after page of words, sometimes, beautiful illustrations really help. And there's one really great graphic novel in the list that I want to highlight. It's called Palestine. It's by Joe Sacco. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. And this is a really innovative graphic novel. It was written in the early 90s, I think 1996. And Joe is a journalist, and he wrote a graphic novel. He's considered the first comic artist journalist, which is really
cool.
interesting. So he wrote this graphic novel based on hundreds of interviews that he did while he was at the West Bank in Gaza. And so the book is a compilation of images and dialogues that really represent different people's voices and their perspectives in that region. So it's a really interesting way to sort of immerse yourself in what's happening in a more of a graphic way.
Okay, and then there's the last one I saw on the list. This is actually a story that you're going to mention, which I commissioned, which I was really proud of.
Oh, yeah. The Iraqi ballet teacher in Iraq.
So moving away from books for a second, there's a really interesting piece at the moment on The National, and it's all about a ballerina in Baghdad. So
it is Lesna Salam, who is a dancer in Baghdad, and she graduated from a really prestigious dance and music school in Iraq, in Baghdad. And she has decided that she wants to take her passion of ballet to the younger generation. And so she has opened an academy, a small dance academy, to teach young people from the ages of 5 up to 18 about the art of ballet, which is unfortunately not that well known in Iraq. So she has been working really hard and working with people and doing a lot of stuff online on Instagram. You should follow them on iraq.ballet to promote the art form and to show the world that people in Iraq are interested in ballet. Young girls and young boys are interested in dancing and ballet. So it's a really wonderful story. And it's a great video we have as well online, her talking about her passion for it.
Yeah, we've got more and more coming out of Baghdad at the moment. I know that you have a special, keen interest in the ongoing.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm Iraqi.
Yeah. So I'm also like really passionate about hearing the other side of Iraq. Like I grew up in the UK, and there was always one side of Iraq that was mentioned. So now that I'm here, I want to hear the other side.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing some more about the art and the kind of expansion of the art industry in Baghdad, which we're going to definitely do a school trip. We'll go.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. I haven't been back since I was 8, so yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and we promise to get you lots of interesting stories for next week.
And if you like this episode, please follow and subscribe on your favourite podcasting app, and don't forget to tell all your friends and family about it. See you next week.